The Fort Campbell cafeteria hummed with lunch noise when Colonel Davis tapped his pen and pointed at the woman in a white volunteer polo behind the coffee urns. Civilians keep boundaries. This is a military installation. Victoria Hayes paused, a dish towel in her hand. I understand your concern, Colonel. Davis didn't lower his voice. We can't have random citizens prowling around during operations discussions. At a nearby table, Major Thompson watched. 3 days of quiet observation had taught him something wasn't ordinary about this volunteer. She moved like someone trained, restocking by rotation, staging supplies, anticipating choke points in foot traffic, listening without staring, always placing herself where she could monitor 3 conversations at once. Logistics muscle memory, not hobby helpfulness. Sir, she's cleared. Thompson tried. Davis waved him off. Unpaid volunteers forget where they are. They don't get a vote on military matters. He nodded toward Victoria. Probably a decent person with a deployed husband. But let's not pretend coffee service equals strategic judgment. Victoria kept working, faster now, as if finishing tasks to leave. Thompson saw something else. The steadiness of a person used to strong personalities. The patience of someone waiting out a tantrum. Lieutenant Colonel Barnes drifted over. Anything we should know, Major? Thompson sipped his coffee. People aren't always what they seem. A tone cut the room flat, official, unmistakably secure. Heads turned. The sound came from Victoria's pocket. Davis stood. Ma'am, personal calls outside. The phone kept ringing. Urgent in a way the building recognized, even if most couldn't name it. I have to take this. Colonel Victoria said, voice still gentle but edged with authority. I gave you a clear instruction, Davis replied, stepping into command posture. 10 seconds, or I'll have you escorted out and your volunteer credentials revoked. Silence spread. Forks paused. Thompson's instincts shouted that this was the wrong hill to die on. Victoria set the coffee pot down. 22 years of command sat in the secure device in her hand. Davis folded his arms. She made her choice, lifted the phone, and spoke. General Hayes. Sound bled out of the cafeteria. Even the kitchen quieted. On the line, general emerging activity in the Mediterranean. Satellite tracks indicate a coordinated naval movement requiring immediate strategic assessment. Victoria's posture changed without ceremony, upright, focused. Time to initial evaluation. 20 minutes, ma'am. Joint Chiefs convening. They want your view pre-briefed to the secretary. Patch and intel, she said, pacing behind the coffee station. All satellite, fleet reconnaissance, and last known patrol routes. Her delivery was calm, clipped. Use 2 choices that scale. Unknown formation of roughly 40 holes. International waters southeast of Cyprus, the briefer said. Signatures don't match known civilian configurations. Behavior is coordinated and disciplined. Possible Russian activity without overt ID? Our current posture? Victoria asked. Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group is 120 miles west. 2 destroyers can close in 6 hours. She didn't slow. Maintain posture. Raise regional readiness to a heightened condition for naval assets. Continuous monitoring. Immediate alert if courses alter toward NATO territorial seas. Move Roosevelt's patrol track 60 miles closer while remaining in international waters. Present, not provocative. Around her, phones lowered. No one wanted to be caught recording this. General, the voice added. We're seeing concurrent spikes in hostile cyber probing against European military networks. Likely testing response coordination, Victoria said. Activate NATO Real-Time Cyber Defense Protocol 7. Notify all European theaters. I want hourly updates on both domains. If either accelerates, alert me immediately. Secure line to Admiral Richardson at EUCOM. Copy. General, executing. She ended the call and looked up. Every face in the room was turned to her astonishment, awe. A few dawning smiles from those who liked puzzles and had just solved one. Davis's mouth was slightly open. Thompson sat straighter, as if a weight he'd been balancing had finally settled. Victoria turned toward the officer's table. Volunteer badge still pinned. and spoke with the quiet certainty of someone who had just managed a global flashpoint between refills of medium roast. "Colonel Davis, you are concerned about civilian volunteers and boundaries. Let me clarify a few things about authority. Respect. It's in the whole picture. My name is General Victoria Hayes, West Command Operations Strategy," she said evenly. "I've been observing, Fort Campbell, in plain clothes to see how leadership works when rank isn't in the room." The volunteer badge stayed on her chest. The room felt it differently now. She laid out what she'd seen. Faint but consistent morale drag. At a training dips, and most concerning bias creeping into decisions. "I have documented 17 instances this week where judgments were based on age, gender, race, or civilian status instead of performance." Davis swallowed. "I didn't intend intent matters less than effect," she replied. "Leadership is what your behavior produces in cohesion and outcomes." She turned to Thompson. "Major, you challenged assumptions and invited alternative views. That's the habit of strategic leaders." His relief showed. "Tempered by the risk of having disagreed with his boss in front of a 3-star? She looked to Barnes and Rodriguez. "You both sensed discomfort today but stayed silent. Failing to intervene when you witness improper treatment is a leadership gap with operational consequences." She set a small notebook on the table. "Here's what happens now. Colonel Davis will report to General Sullivan at 1400 for immediate training in bias recognition and leadership development. Your remarks about volunteers and who gets a vote show urgent need for corrective work." Davis nodded, stunned. "Major Thompson, you'll meet me tomorrow to discuss advanced leadership assignments. The base will undergo a comprehensive climate review every echelon, including volunteers, admin, and enlisted. Talent will be surfaced wherever it lives." She held up the secure phone. "Fort Campbell becomes a pilot for inclusive leadership integration. We'll codify the volunteer program, map civilian skills and logistics, tech, and admin into operations support, and train leaders to spot and grow talent beyond packaging. Presence of civilians doesn't diminish command. It tests it. The cafeteria had cleared around them. Doors were closed for privacy. What followed became legend, an impromptu after-action review on respect, authority, and decision quality, delivered by a general still in a polo and khakis. "Hierarchy exists for speed and clarity," Hayes said. "But it collapses when leaders mistake surface cues for capability. You had a chance today to look past appearances. Some of you did. Some did not." 6 months later, the pilot had teeth and results. Davis was reassigned to logistics at Fort Leonard Wood. Career intact, but promotion track cooled, his evaluation including mandatory mentorship and oversight standards. Thompson pinned Lieutenant Colonel on time and moved to Pentagon Strategic Planning, where his habit of interrogating assumptions proved valuable. Barnes and Rodriguez completed targeted development on moral courage and intervention. Across the Army, the case study shorthand, Hidden Strength, rolled into leadership courses, teaching officers to recognize quiet competence and to audit their snap judgments. 18 months later, Victoria Hayes took her 4th star, becoming the highest-ranking Latina officer in Army history. She chose Fort Campbell for the ceremony. "Leadership is humility to learn from unexpected places," she told the formation. "It's courage to doubt your own filters and discipline to judge by merit." The most durable change was cultural. Command teams asked better questions of themselves. Enlisted personnel reported feeling seen. Civilian employees were mapped for skills and integrated more thoughtfully. The volunteer program expanded to include retired educators, former executives, and skilled tradespeople whose experience improved base performance in ways traditional pipelines sometimes missed. The story wasn't about "caught you, I outrank you." It was about building leaders who could see clearly, listen widely, and decide precisely near the coffee station. Maintenance installed a small plaque. It didn't mention her name. It read, "The measure of leadership isn't how you treat those above you, it's how you treat those who seem to have no power at all." People paused there on busy mornings, uniforms and polos, shoulder to shoulder. The steam from fresh brews lifting like a quiet standard. Sometimes the person pouring your coffee had influenced global posture before noon. Sometimes the quiet observer held the insight that would avert the next crisis. Often, the strongest leader in the room was the one most underestimated. If the story moved you, type respect and tell me where you're watching from.